How's it going, guys? We have got a 3.5 Nissan. This one specifically is in a 2017 Altima. We are going to do spark plugs on these. Most vehicles, that's not that big of a deal. This vehicle, this engine specifically, is a little more in depth. So our front three plugs, no problem. We can swap those out just like any vehicle. But the back three, we actually have to pull the intake manifold off to be able to do that. So we're going to walk through the process on this one specifically. If you find this helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, a few things that we're going to need for this is actually a new intake gasket, because we're pulling that intake off of there. Of course, I've got my spark plugs, putting NGK iridiums back in this one. But then you're going to need a 14 millimeter thin-walled socket to be able to get these plugs in and out without a problem. I will throw the one I'm using down in the description below if you want to pick one up. First thing we need to do is we've got two 10 millimeter bolts holding this plastic shield on. Note you've got those two bolts up top, but then you've also got some rubber grommets that are kind of tough to pull off. They just push down on these studs right here. You can see our front three coils are just right here, easy to get to. We can take those coils out, get our spark plugs swapped out. It's always a good idea, see how dirty this is, to blow some compressed air across this to get all the loose debris blown out of the way. So when you take these out, it doesn't fall down in your spark plug hole. I also like to put a little dielectric grease right down in my boot. Just keeps moisture out, keeps you from having issues down the road. Next thing I'm going to do is work on getting the air box and all of this out of the way. Probably take this out, which is going to require this top cover to come off. Just get all of that out of the way, because we're also going to have to unbolt that throttle body. That'll just give us some more room to work. Okay, you've got 10 millimeter here and here. That allows this whole thing to come off. We've got a clip on each side of the air box. Got my line pulled off from here, loosened my clamp to the throttle body, and unplugged my mass airflow sensor. Now I should be able to get majority of this off, then we'll determine what it takes to get the bottom half of that box out. Now this throttle body's got coolant lines running to it, so we don't want to have to disconnect those. So I'm going to take the 4 bolts, hold that throttle body on, off, and just let it set here out of the way. It's going to take a T5 bit to get the throttle body off. Definitely the worst part of this job. You see all these vacuum lines running everywhere. These cars got 100,000 miles on it. These things have started to get brittle. So I want to take the least amount of these off that I can. So I'm looking at these. It looks like I could unbolt that. Those would just come off with the intake. That way I don't have to mess with those. Most of these are all attached to the intake. Got one that runs back to itself. You do have your evap here. So this is all set up. This line is just hard as a rock. This side's not as bad. Traced it back to a point that still had some hose that wasn't too brittle. I was able to take it off there. Then I'm looking at, I've got a line right here that connects all this to the intake and then to this separate line down here. This is the one I'm going to try to take off. Once again, if I can leave all these intact, I only have to take this one off. That's what I want to do. Not sure if there's some other lines hiding somewhere yet, but there's a good chance that any line we take off, we're going to have to replace. So the fewer number of lines we have to mess with, the better. Okay, so we went through, we talked about, got that line off, got our evap line off. We've got this little line that runs up to this mess up here that's bolted to the intake. Couldn't get that side off, but I was able to get this side off without damaging that hose. So that's the best advice I can give you in all of this is work on a spot. If you're having trouble, try the other end of it. You may have better luck. Then we've got our evap solenoid unplugged. We've got these little vacuum solenoids unplugged. It has a little retainer clipped in there. We've got this one unplugged as well. Then if we come around, there's two vacuum lines right here in the back that you have to get off. I was able to get both of them off at the intake. You might have better luck, depending on your application, on getting the line down there off. You just have to work at it. When we go to put those back on there in the back, I'm going to try to get the clamps positioned a little better so I can actually get to them. So now we need to unbolt this so it comes off with our intake so I don't have to worry about these little bitty hoses. Okay, we got that unbolted. Now I'm going to start working on the bolts on the intake. We've got one on either side all the way across, and we've got some end studs. Okay, we've got the nuts on either end, 4 bolts in the middle. Let's see if this thing will lift up out of here now. Feels like we're still hanging up on something here in the back. There is another bolt right here in the back. See it right there. Okay, there we've got the intake off. You can see that bolt right there. I was talking about that I had to take off the back. After I got that off, I realized there's actually a bracket here, so I'll probably put this bracket back on that piece and take this nut off. That's going to be a little bit easier to position and get in place when the intake's getting put back on. Now we've just got to walk through the same process on these back 3 plugs we did on the front 3. So I went to pull that first plug out and you see all this oil. There's a seal that seals that spark plug tube. That seal has gone bad and filled that spark plug tube with oil. Not uncommon on these. You can see when I pulled the coil out, the boot came off of it and it's all covered in oil. So we've got another project now. We're going to get a new boot for that coil. And unfortunately on these, the tube seals are built into the valve cover. So there's not a way to replace those by themselves. So we're gonna have to get a new valve cover for this thing. Okay, so we've got this wiring harness with all these clips. Got to pop that out. We have got a vent line coming off that valve cover. We're gonna have to swap that hose off, but we can do that once we get it off of here. We've got a clip right back here with a plug. Then we've got our 2 cam sensors. We've got those unplugged. We're gonna have to take the sensors themselves out, so 2 10mm bolts, and then all of the bolts that hold the valve cover on there. Then we should be able to get this old one off. There were 10 bolts. We got all the bolts out of that valve cover. Now we're gonna see if we can get it to pop off. There are actually 12 bolts. I missed these two right here, so we'll get those out. Okay, we've got the old one off. I'm gonna go through and wipe down all these surfaces where our new gasket's gonna seal. These ones do require you to put a little RTV in the corners on the front of the engine. Also, don't forget that you've got the seals set up here on for the cam sensors as well. Got our new gasket laid in here, a little bit of RTV in the corners. Let's get this installed. Got our new valve cover on. We got all 12 bolts tightened up. What you want to do with those is get them all started and then just slowly get them snugged down. Don't tighten one and then go straight to the other one, tighten it all the way down. Just snug them up as you go around and treat it like you would like a wheel. So I snug this one, then I'd go over there, then I'd come over here, and then I'd go over there, and just back and forth all the way around and keep going until you get them all tight. Now we're gonna go through, get our harnesses all snapped back in place, hoses put back on, our PCV hose put on, our cam sensors put in. Now those just push down in there and have a single bolt that holds them on. We got our harnesses all snapped back in place, some of these plugs, cam sensors back in, everything that I could. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get those spark plugs changed out. Okay, we got new plugs in, coils back on, bolted down, all plugged in. We've got our PCV hose swapped over. We are going to move that bracket we talked about on the back of that intake back over to this, and then we're gonna be ready to try to get this intake put back on. Okay, that bracket's back on here. Remember to spin these hose clamps to where you can get to them once that intake's up there and in the way. Now we've got to get this new intake gasket put on here. It's got little tabs, so it only goes in there one way. There we go. Okay, our hoses are on back here. That bolts back in on the back of the intake. With this plugged back in, bolted back up. Vacuum line here is put back on. We're gonna go through and put our intake bolts on, get all this stuff plugged back in, evap, and get throttle body bolted back on. Okay, our intake's back in. Bolts are all tight. All our connectors are all re-plugged in. Got our vacuum line here put back on. Still gonna have to put this on when we put that air box. Throttle body's on, bolted down. I'm gonna double check this thing once more, then throw the air box in and start it up. Okay, we got everything put back together here. Air box back in, mass airflow's plugged back in. We got that vent hooked up, our clamps are tight. I think we're ready to start this thing up and see how she runs. Hopefully this will give you a little more confidence if you're looking to do the spark plugs on your 3.5 Nissan. I'm going to throw this engine cover back on, take the thing for a test drive. See you guys next time.